let's make sure.
Hola.
Do you think?
¿Cómo estás?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, sorry. Quiere decir, how are you?
Oh, good thing.
Muy bien.
Hold up. Yeah, I got it. All right.
Muy bien.
Do you think that the Constitution protects the rights of all citizens?
To a certain extent, yes. But many times the rights of someone overlaps with my rights. So, for example, the right of, to say whatever you want to say, sometimes it can be harmful to others with no reason, but they're protected. So, I don't know. My mom used to say, when your rights start affecting the rights of others, then you should stop. And I feel here they don't. So they need to be revised.
Yeah. All right. The Bethany House supports homeless mothers with children, and they do their best to help those mothers find a home for them and their family. What are your thoughts of the Bethany House?
I knew about the Bethany House when I was working with um, immigrants from mostly from Guatemala and Mexico, and we found mothers that they were struggling to feed their kids and to provide them for clothing, and so they were a resource for us. And I found I saw firsthand how amazing they were. My concern is that they should be more coming from the government instead, like having specific programs to help people get out of their situation, so that we don't need so many Bethany houses, because there are not enough Bethany houses.
All right. Lastly, what are your thoughts on child poverty, and is it fixable?
It is fixable as long as we are willing to look at the problem as not handing food only or giving just a temporary solution. So it will be possible if humans wants to help one another. If somebody's concerned about why the kids is going through poverty, so that it could be fixed through education, through more jobs, training, so that those parents that they're supposed to support those kids have the way to do it. But for some, poverty is money making. So for some people, they wanted to keep poverty going because it feeds some certain organizations that provides them money. I don't know if I made clear, but my point is that poverty could be fixed as long as we want to fix it, in terms of giving the tools for them to work and to do the things that they need to do. But many times, once they start getting up, the government cuts all of the help. So therefore, there's not an incentive to move for what they are. I think it should be rewards as much as you're moving up.
So you don't think it should be just handed to them? You think they gotta earn it?
No. If you don't have a job, you don't have a dignity. And if you don't have dignity, then you start changing everything. All your moral values change. For me, I always thought that having a job was a privilege and allows me to grow through that job, whatever job it was. But when you don't have a job, then you don't feel like a human, like you don't have the power to do the things that you had to do.
Thank
You're welcome.
Do you think that the Constitution protects the rights of all citizens?
No, I think it's intended to, but it doesn't. There's a lot of populations and demographics that don't get represented and they don't have the Constitution valued at the same level.
All right. The Bethany House supports homeless mothers with children, and they do their best to help those mothers find a home for them and their family. What are your thoughts of the Bethany House?
I've never heard of the Bethany House. Where is it located?
And it's one in Clifton. No, it's in like Avondale, I think.
The mission that you say that they're trying to accomplish is something that I find very admirable. There's a lot of families, and especially single moms with their children, that lack housing, and of course we need to support those people as much as possible. So if the Bethany House is doing that, then I think it's a great thing.
All right. Lastly, what are your thoughts on child poverty?
My thoughts in just general child
Yeah.
poverty. I've thought about this a lot, and it doesn't make sense that a nation like ours would have any child in poverty. Like, I understand that families in general may not always be self-sufficient, but there needs to be some sort of support for children. And I know we already have some as far as like WIC and SNAP and stuff like that, but I think it needs to be extended to even proper health care. As a parent myself, I've often wondered, why does health care have to be so expensive for my son? Like, I could go without, but my son cannot. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure he has health insurance. So there's a lot of things there that I think suppress families and make them fall into poverty easily. And one of those things that could help families not be in poverty is just to help support the children.
And do you think it's fixable?
It is, but it's going to be hard to fix, and it's a challenge that the whole nation would have to agree upon. And I think everybody wants change, but we just see change in different ways, and we need to be able to compromise and to maybe put personal feelings or political feelings aside and only think about what is the long-term goal of our society and how are we going to support our society.
Okay, thank you. That's all the question.
Okay.
Do you think that the Constitution will protect the rights for all citizens?
Ultimately, yes, if it were enforced correctly. I don't feel that it's always enforced correctly, but I believe the protections are in it for that to happen.
The next question is, well, there's a little passage. The Bethany House supports homeless mothers with children, and they do their best to help these mothers find a home for them and their family. What are your thoughts on the Bethany House?
I think that's an awesome thing, and I think it's great that we live in a nation and a city that thinks about helping people who need that kind of leg up. There must be something in their life that has caused that struggle in their life. So I think it's great that we have an agency out there that's willing to help that particular group of people.
Okay, and lastly, what are your thoughts on child poverty, and do you think it's fixable?
I guess to think about it, everything is fixable. I think that we are making strides as a nation to do better. For example, I know that there are a lot of kids out there that are hungry, and there are a lot of organizations now that are working through schools to provide free breakfasts, free lunches, and even in the summer, in some schools provide free meals for kids that aren't eating. I know there are some organizations out there that are also doing things to get food to kids. But I do think that we can do more as a nation, and I think we could find other ways, not just with food, but for clothing and other needs that kids have, to find ways to get kids what they need. But fixable is a hard word, but we definitely can make improvements on the situation that we're in now.
Thank you.